Hello, and welcome to this presentation, Getting Started with the CMA180 SELCAL Testing. In this presentation, we'll explain how to both generate and analyze SELCAL tones using a Rohde & Schwarz CMA180 radio test set. This presentation assumes a basic understanding of the SELCAL tones used in aviation. If you're not familiar with SELCAL, or if you'd like a brief review, you might want to watch the presentation Understanding SELCAL before beginning this presentation. SELCAL testing on the CMA180 falls into two different categories. The first is generating SELCAL codes, or tones, that is, modulating these tones onto a transmitted RF carrier. The second is analyzing SELCAL tones from a demodulated RF carrier. In this presentation, we'll explain and provide step-by-step examples for both types of testing. Note, too, that the CMA180 supports both traditional SELCAL 16 tones as well as the modernized or expanded SELCAL 32 tones. So let's begin by showing how to modulate SELCAL tones onto a transmitted RF carrier. Analog signal generation is started by going to the global toolbar and then selecting RX under the Analog tab. SELCAL generation parameters are then accessed via the Generator tab. This is the main generator configuration screen. At the top left are the RF settings, and to the right of these are the connector and output settings. At the bottom are settings for audio frequency signal generation, and the Start-Stop button at the upper right is used to enable and disable signal generation. Let's now go through each of these areas step by step, starting with the RF and connector settings. Under RF settings on the right side of the screen, the frequency, level, and modulation type, or mode, can be configured. For SELCAL, the mode is usually AM for transmissions at VHF and upper sideband for signals at HF. Note, too, that if AM is chosen, the modulation depth can also be specified. On the left side of the screen, the output RF connector, either RF COM or RF out, can be chosen. The amount of external attenuation in the signal path, for example due to cables, etc., can also be specified. Below the RF settings are the AF settings. If the mode is set to SELCAL, then the carrier is unmodulated, except when SELCAL tones are manually sent or dialed. Alternatively, the mode can be set so that various types of modulation are applied to the carrier. For example, here a 1000 Hz tone is transmitted continuously and is only interrupted when the SELCAL tones are being sent. In either case, the small gear icon can be used to access the SELCAL tone settings. The SELCAL tone settings dialog is used to define which pairs of tones are being sent. Note that each pair of tones must be entered in alphabetical order. The frequencies for each tone in each pair are shown directly below the tones. Below that are the repetition parameters. By default, the sequence is only sent once, but it can also be repeated with a user-defined interval between the sequences. In addition, the timing between the tones is set to the default of 1 second per dual tone and 0.2 seconds between them, but this can also be adjusted. On the right side of the screen, either SELCAL 16 or SELCAL 32 can be selected. SELCAL 32 expands the list of available digits by adding T through Z, as well as the numbers 1 to 9. And it's also possible to create and use custom tones. The SELCAL tones are transmitted by clicking on the Dial button. At this point, the configured SELCAL tones will be modulated onto the carrier. In our example, the tones DE and KS are sent each time the dial button is pressed. Now let's go step by step through how to analyze received SELCAL tones. SELCAL tone analysis is started by going to the global toolbar and then selecting TX under the Analog tab. Analysis is configured from the Analyzer tab in the main Transmit GUI, and SELCAL analysis parameters are accessed from the Dialing tab at the bottom of the main GUI. This is the main analyzer screen. In the top left are the settings for frequency, expected power, and modulation type, as well as the mode selection. This should be set to SELCAL. In the pane to the right, the measurement mode, single shot or continuous, can be selected along with the number of measurements. Below this is the results pane. We'll go into more detail on this shortly. The input connector, RF in or RF COM, can also be specified. And as before, the Start-Stop button in the upper right is used to begin and end the measurements. Clicking the Settings icon next to Mode brings up the dialing configuration dialog. Here, the valid SELCAL tones and nominal frequency of each tone are displayed. The available tones will depend on the selected SELCAL version. As mentioned earlier, the CMA180 supports both SELCAL 16 and SELCAL 32, as well as user-defined tones. The checkbox below this, Dialing with PTT Release, causes the CMA to continue to evaluate dialed tones, even if the carrier briefly drops, that is, if PTT is released. Once the measurement is running, the results pane will show each valid pair of SELCAL tones that are received. The table shows the received digits, expressed as letters and/or numbers, the frequency and the deviation of each audio tone from this nominal frequency, and both the duration of, as well as the delay between the tones. This table will continue to be populated as long as the measurement is running and valid SELCAL tones are received. Let's end with a brief summary. The Rohde & Schwarz CMA180 radio test set can be used to both transmit and receive or analyze the SELCAL tones used in aviation. In this presentation, we showed how to do this with tones modulated onto an RF carrier. The CMA supports both the traditional SELCAL 16 tone set and the more modern, expanded SELCAL 32 tones. User-defined tones are also supported. Generation and analysis of SELCAL tones requires first defining the frequency, power, and modulation type of the carrier. Analysis of received SELCAL tones provides the digits corresponding to these tones, as well as the frequencies, deviations, and timings of those tones. This concludes our presentation, getting started with the CMA180 SELCAL testing. If you'd like to learn more about SELCAL, avionics signal testing, or the CMA180 radio test set, please see the links in the video description. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at rohde-schwarz.com.